Thank you so much. 30,000 views over the last 2 weeks for the Student Body Right USC podcast and the Put on Raiders podcast here on the Put on Waivers Media Group. We appreciate all that. Have a great Thanksgiving as well. So do me a favor. Let the views match the subs and subscribe to the channel. Keeps all this stuff free for you guys. So keep that thing popping and rolling. We appreciate that. Now we're head over to the Put on Raiders podcast where Ryan and I talk about the Broncos game and then preview the Seahawks game and maybe some off-season activity for the Raiders who are now 3-7. All right. Peace.
Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome, everybody, to the glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shore of the Pacific Ocean. Two in a row, right? Two wins in a row. I think that this would be this late in the season. So the Raiders get 2 games in a row where they grab it, where they're victorious, but they win 2 games in a row, both in overtime, both in dramatic fashion, and what a tremendous kind of walk-off, kind of instant classic, if you will, for the Raiders and Seahawks here. A great game by an all-time game by Josh Jacobs. I don't think we'll ever forget this one. 303 yards from scrimmage. Great job by him. Ryan, how you doing today?
Doing good. I think if they win next week, we can call it a winning streak. So I think they have to get to 3, but they're getting close. But no, Josh Jacobs, visions of Bo Jackson in my head going 86 yards to walk it off in Seattle.
Yes.
A lot of good came out of this game. This team battled adversity throughout the entire game, and they just found a way to win. We'll see what happens next week. It's getting interesting because the Raiders definitely are starting to get an identity on offense, and that's pound the rock. So we'll get into some of the play calls by Josh McDaniels as we move on here. But it feels good to get another win. When it went to overtime, got to give the defense credit again. They got the stop at the end of regulation. They got to stop on overtime. So I know they gave up a ton of points. The offense had a hand in that too. But when it came down to crunch time, the defense was able to make 2 stops there to give the offense a chance to win the game.
So let's start off with like some of the unsung heroes of the game. I think the offensive line did a good job. I think the offensive line have been much maligned. They have not been, they've probably been a little bit better than Raider Twitter says they are. But they haven't been one of the best units in the National Football League. But they have played. They played well in this game. They gave Carr protection. I thought Carr did a good job of stepping up in the pocket at times to make some good decisions and throwing the football. But kudos to the offensive line in this one.
I thought the offensive line had their best game of the year against on the road in a hostile environment. I think there was 1 false start, maybe 1 holding penalty, maybe none. I can't remember one off the top of my head, but, in a loud environment, they held their own. They held their water. My unsung hero in this game is Jacob Johnson, the fullback. If a running back goes for 229 yards with what the Raiders are running with a fullback on the field, that fullback is doing something right. So kudos to the offensive line. Kudos to the fullback. Josh Jacobs ran hard. Again, broke a lot of tackles. And Josh McDaniels was determined to run the football in this game. So I would have loved to see a little bit more play action with how well the running game was winning. And then Derek Carr, 3 touchdowns. He did it for the first time since 2020.
It's over,
he threw a beautiful ball
Fine.
Foster Moreau in the corner after Moreau decided to drop the one before on 3rd down.
And I think you don't get a chance to really, and I think if I can play like the person at the club and you can be the DJ, if I can have you do me a favor and just go out there and put that one for the all 22 when you do your breakdowns, because when they show the reverse angle of it, it doesn't look like there's any way possible that ball could get to Moreau, and he really dropped that. Carr did a really good job of getting out of the pocket and throwing it right where only Moreau could get it. He kind of dropped it in the bucket in the corner of the right side of the end zone. That was a great throw. That was the throw of the year from Derek Carr as far as that goes. Just the difficulty in which he had to He had to make it, and we always criticize a little bit for him not throwing the ball in the end zone. He threw the ball in the end zone, and the guy made it. And he can be frustrated because the arm talent is there, right? Like he is not like there's not like I mean I'm not saying he's Josh Allen arm talent, Derek Carr, but he does have the ability to make all the throws you could ever want from a quarterback. And just sometimes you got to pull that trigger and let it go.
Yeah, I will say on the offensive line front, they only allowed 4 quarterback hits in this game. Derek Carr was basically clean, not a lot of hurries. After the first quarter, Derek Carr obviously 2 interceptions. It wasn't a great start. I would argue that the one to Moreau was a tight window throw. He probably shouldn't have made that. I think it was on first down. It was a great play by the defense. The one to Adams, I think the angle. I want to see the all 22 because I think the angle they showed on TV, kind of that wide camera looking across the field. A lot of people thought the ball was in front of Adams. I actually think the ball went towards the back of his helmet and went past him. He saw it late, and that's why you see him stick his hand up like that. The ball wasn't – Adams was expecting the ball out in front of him as he was running away from the defenders. So I want to see where exactly that ball placement was. But, again, it wasn't an accurate throw. But I think after that, Derek Carr played a pretty good game. 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Basically, he finished 25 of 36. So, he kind of struggled there early, but he got onto a roll. Only took 1 sack and got 295 yards and made the plays. On third down, I thought Derek Carr had his best game of the year on third down. Picking up first downs, getting the ball out, avoiding some sacks. And again, he had a great running game. The offensive line played really well for most of this game. Devontae Adams was a factor. I would have liked to see them try to get the ball down the field against those young DBs a little bit more. But again, they don't have a third receiver. We keep talking about this. It's basically Hollins, Adams, a fullback, and a tight end on every play. They're basically not running. They're running an old school, Big Ten type offense this year because that's what they have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, or that because they kind of put themselves in this position, and that part. But they are. I mean, it allows. One thing I will say, it does allow for Jacobs, who is probably the most, outside of Adams in the way everything kind of is going now. It's probably him and Adams are like one A and one B as far as the offense goes, and Jacobs puts the ball in his hands a lot, and you might see some losses, and you might see him hit a brick wall, but he's gonna go on a tear at some point in the football game, and he's gonna make some plays. And I mean, he's just so subtle. When he reaches the hole and gets to the second level, you just see him just kind of just push off defenders' hands and spin. He has great footwork, and the guy would could fight his way out of an elevator. I mean, he has just foot speed, and also that short area quickness you talked about a lot. He does a great job of that, and I gotta give kudos to him. I mean, that was the one thing in his career that we always talked about that it was missing was the big long run. He had some long runs against the Chiefs in the game against Green Bay. At Green Bay, he had some long runs, but nothing like this one where it just boom, game ender. That reminded me of I think was it Tyrone Wheatley had a run like that, or somebody had a run like that against the Seahawks. Do the Raiders always have big runs against the Seahawks? I think his
name was Bo Jackson.
Yeah, but I think when they played. I think they played Seattle one more time in Oakland, and somebody started to give up with a huge run. But who knows? It could have been a long time. Actually, no, it was a long pass from whoever to Marcel Reese. It was a pass. It wasn't a run. But anyway, he just. I mean, they've done a good job of getting him the football, and not giving up on the run. So that kind of keeps everybody offensive line involved. And the play action game, we didn't see that a lot today, but I'm sure we'll see a little bit of more of that in the future.
I think this is just me going off the top of my head. I think the play action, once Carr got hit in the ribs and he was down, it looks like he got the wind knocked out of him, but he clearly has some sort of injury going on in his abdomen. So I think they probably didn't want him turning the back as much. If you notice, it was basically under center run, shotgun pass. After that. So I will say here's why the Raiders won the game. 40 carries, 283 yards on the ground, 7-1 a carry. The Seahawks, who we said they have to stop the run, 23 carries, 65 yards, 2.8 on the ground. Yeah. Kenneth Walker, after that touchdown run, went 13 carries for 12 yards. That's why they won the game. They got a couple sacks. They got 2 turnovers. This team finally played complimentary football. The score is not going to show that. Obviously, I think it was 40 to 34. you're going to think this was like an AFC West shootout, which it really wasn't. There was big plays made, a lot of field position, but I thought the Raiders defense held up okay. And then they had stretches where they were putrid again. That just keeps happening. But when they needed to make plays, they did. They got an interception. They got the lucky fumble recovery, but it's still a turnover. I think Patrick Graham still has a lot of questions to answer, but Max Crosby was that guy. When the Raiders needed to get off the field, he got a sack. And then he basically almost got a sack in overtime. They basically made Geno Smith throw the ball away. But again, the Raiders defensively, I just don't think they have the talent right now or the scheme. And for some reason, they stopped blitzing this game. And Meek Robertson was MIA, and I look up in overtime or late in the fourth quarter, and he's one-on-one against DK Metcalf after not being on the field basically the whole game. So kudos again, though, to the Raiders offensive line. They hit the quarterback 10 times. Bilal Nichols got a sack. Andrew Billings came out of nowhere, got a sack.
Yeah, he did.
Max Crosby got a sack and a half. They shut down the run. I think losing Billings, it looked like a pretty serious injury. They had to help him off the field, a lower leg injury. From the looks of it, I would say he's probably not going to play next week, and he's probably going to miss the Rams game because that's on a short week. So Neil Farrell, Matthew Butler, one of those guys is going to have to step in. But I think overall there was a lot of good from the offense, some good from the defense, not a lot of good from the special teams. Daniel Carlson missing. And then I really want to talk about the play calling, offensive and defensive, because I think the players won today in spite of some of the decisions by both the offensive and defensive coach.
So before we go to that side, I want to say a little positive before we go to that side real quick. I wanted to give you said Bilal Nichols, you said Billings, who hopefully he can return at some point. I did want to give props to Abdullah. I think he showed a little juice as kind of a third down back. I'm not sure if it was James White level, but at least he caught a touchdown pass. He gave you a little juice in the return game as well too. So I definitely want to give him some props as far as that goes. I mean, I was wondering when we're going to see somebody. I know. I'm not gonna go crazy about White getting one carry because this is a Josh Jacob parade day for as far as the carries go, as far as that goes. But the play calling, go right ahead because I definitely have some questions about it.
I think I will say on the Abdullah kick, I had flashbacks to Tim Belcher, Chan Ho Park back in the baseball days of. I think it was Belcher. Was it Belcher or was it Channel Park that like scissor kicked the guy running down the line back in like the early 90s? But one of those two pitchers.
Yeah. Oh, it's a touchdown. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. That's good.
The play calling. If it's 4th and inches and you're in a game where you need yards and the quarterback could fall over, let's try that. We don't need to be throwing tosses and throwing the ball out wide on 4th and 2. They kept going to that over and over again. It worked a couple times on 3rd and short, but this is 4th and inches. It was literally like 6 inches, maybe. Like all you have to do is take a snap and fall down. Some of the, there was not a lot of play action. You never saw the way they were running the football. You never saw them like play action and take that shot down the field. The flea flicker was nice. Again, it almost didn't work because Jacobs almost got tackled there before he could turn around and flip it back. But if you notice, like a lot of what Denver did on tape where they were blitzing the linebackers a lot, run blitzes, the Raiders basically ran the ball almost every first down. It was literally handoff Jacobs. So I'm hoping a lot of that had to do just with Carr being dinged up and they just didn't want to take a lot of chances, but you just didn't see them capitalize on some of the situation they probably could have. Opting on 4th and less than 1 and for a field goal early after they ran the ball 3 times in the red zone. Like they were running the ball at will. You're 3 and 7. Let's get on the ball and run it again. Run downhill. And then they did it again in overtime. I want to say it was 4th and they tried the field goal. Was it 4th and 1 or like maybe 4th and 2? It was short.
It's 4th and 1.
Yeah, 4th and 1, and they're trying a 56-yard field goal again. Carlson's made those, but with the way they were running the football, you would think that they would just line up and run downhill, but they started to get cute. I did like the DJ Turner play. That wasn't a false start on Foster Moreau. They do that every week where the tight end kind of chops his feet and works down the line on the wham block. I think the referee just saw him kind of move his feet and threw the flag out of panic when it wasn't. But
that could have went for some yardage.
Yeah, and we'll see on the all-22 how much yardage. But I will give credit to this. And Pete Carroll mentioned it after the game on the Jacobs touchdown run. I'll show it on the all-22. You can actually see the deep safety is over on the hash double teaming Devontae Adams. That's why he didn't have the angle to get to Jacobs. And you could see Mac Hollins work down and get the other safety. So literally he just had to make one safety miss who couldn't get the angle based on where he was covering Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
That Adams affects the defense on every play, whether he's getting the ball or not. But defensively, they were getting home with 4. I would like to just see a little bit more pressure. They abandoned the blitz basically in this game. You didn't really see it. And the defenders finally got their hands on some balls, which they haven't been able to do. Merrick had an interception in the end zone go right through his hands. He's got to make that play. Harmon has a chance to make an interception a play or two later. Couldn't come down with it. So it's good to see the defenders getting their hands on the ball. But now let's pull those in. Perryman got an interception, what looked like cover 2. Got a nice depth there, and Geno Smith basically threw it right to him. But Nate Hobbs is going to be back next week, it sounds like. So I think this is starting to trend in the right direction once the Raiders have established what they want to do offensively.
And I think also too, I know people always start texting me. They're like, "Oh, if we can beat the Chargers, the Rams are playing with nobodies." And I'm like, okay, we'll see. I want to refrain.
Technically, that's true.
Technically, that is true, but I will say I don't want to jump the gun because I feel like they got to get to 500. I mean, that's my biggest thing. That's my biggest thing. I don't want to even say the P word until they get to 500. No. As far as that goes, I did think that the defense did, they kind of got the wrong end of the stick, if you will, with the ints. Getting backed up right off the rip. I think it's actually, I feel like if you're gonna turn the ball over or you're gonna let one rip, the first play of the game isn't a bad one. You know what I mean? Like to me, that's one where you don't want to turn the ball over at all. But it was okay with. I wasn't really upset with that one. It was just a bad throw. I mean, it looked like Adams had position on both of those offenders, so I was good with that. I was okay with him just being. Just let the ball rip, like let it go, because you have to be able to rip some throws. He missed that one. I think the Foster Moreau one over the middle. Oh my God, Foster was like by him. I don't know what defense they were playing in Seattle on that one, but he was in the stadium by himself on that one.
I think Patrick Graham called that one because there wasn't anyone in the field.
He doesn't. Yeah, seriously. Have you ever seen? I mean, speaking of Patrick Graham, and we were joking about Paul Gunther as well too, but have you ever seen especially after you get a positive defensive play on first down, you make it like 2nd and 20, you make it 2nd and 17. Have you ever seen a worse defensive play call after that? I mean, why? I mean, I don't understand how they basically give it all back on the very next play. Like on that is probably the most maddening thing about this entire defense I've watched for the entire season this year. That they just, even when they get a negative play, whether it's Crosby sack or just a tackle for loss, that next play is just it's 2nd and 17, and they give up 15, 18 yards on the next on that play.
They did it twice in this game. I know in the Gunther years, 3rd and 10 was basically 3rd and 3 because he was giving it up at like a 45-50% clip. But no, I mean, you get him in 2nd and 23, and then it's the quarterback just gets outside the pocket, flips the ball to a running back for 25 yards. Like, I don't know where Jaylen Brown was going.
Yeah.
But again, those are like, you want to heat them up on that or play way off in coverage and make them check it down. Like they were clearly playing man, and they had no one assigned to the quarterback who could run a little bit. And then on the other one, I think it was Geno Smith ran. Like he kind of got out of the pocket to the right. There was no one there, and he scampers down the field for 20 yards I think it was 2nd and 17 after the sack. So that's been a problem for a long time. And then you see like other teams, not the Raiders, just watch NFL football on Sunday, like 3rd 10, 3rd and 12. Like teams are dumping it off for 2 or 3 yards and punting. Like guys aren't open when they're playing the Raiders. It's like, 2nd and 20, no problem. Like, so it's not like they were facing Patrick Mahomes and Hill and Kelsey and like the high-powered Chiefs from a couple of years ago. Then okay, they're going to make some plays, but we're talking about a dump off to a running back and Geno Smith just getting outside the pocket and just obliterating the Raiders on those 2 plays. But I did notice, and I think I texted you right away. Brock Sin, as far as I remember, wasn't on the field the first play. They basically played a lot of Sam Webb, a lot of Tyler Hall. I trying to remember his name, Tyler Hall, and then on the other side, Averett started, which was interesting, and then he ended up with a toe injury, and again wasn't very good. Amik Robertson can't find snaps. Like I keep looking for him. He's never on the field.
Yeah.
So this defense, there was some positive strides. There was a lot of bad in this game too. Thankfully, the offense did hand the other team several points in this game off those turnovers, but they did respond and they did win this game when they had the opportunity to. And that's all we're asking from the offense and the defense. Like when it's net cutting time in the fourth quarter, make that stop. The other side score. Or if you score, get the stop like the Raiders did. The Raiders scored with a minute 54, 56 something. Defense got to stop. So this defense doesn't have the talent to go out there and hold teams to 7, 10, 13 points. They're going to have to win this way, and to get the stops when they need to. Obviously, you don't want them to give up 30-plus points. They gave up 34. I would argue 10 of those are on the offense, so they gave up 24 in this game. But I did want to touch on a Twitter poll I put out. I want to ask you what you would do. I want to touch on this real quick because I've gotten a ton of responses. We're at 123 responses, which is weird. So I posted 4 different scenarios next offseason. You're the Raiders. Scenario 1, and we've kind of talked about this. Pay Jacobs, which either franchise him or give him a deal. Keep Waller. Trade Renfro. Scenario 2, pay Jacobs. Keep Renfro. Trade Waller. Scenario 3 is keep Renfro and Waller and let Jacobs walk, kind of what we've kind of felt like they were going to do most of the offseason. Or scenario 4 is pay Jacobs, keep the other 2. What would you do if you had to choose?
There's an option. Let me see. Let me think about it for a second. So, was there an option for Jacobs and Waller
and trade Renfro?
Trade Renfro.
That was scenario 1. Yeah,
that's scenario 1. So I think I have to be like I can't think with my heart. I gotta think with like my actual football brain. And I think if there's a piece that doesn't fit, it seems like it's would be Renfro, right? I mean, you got Adams who can do a lot of different things, but Adams can eat inside. You got Waller who wants to be inside as well, and I think we talked about that before. Like I think the 3 guys who want to eat inside doesn't really work. I think I would try to replace him with a couple of like downfield threats. Maybe maybe a McCole Hartman, maybe Nelson Aguilar. Aguilar would probably be the best option because he's played in this. Oh, Brandon Cook's another one. I mean, he wants to play somewhere else as well, and that's the kind of thing I'd probably do because it just makes, as much as I love Renfro and I would not want to do that. I think I would have to really consider it because I mean he just doesn't seem like he fits this offense with the pieces they have unless you're just gonna sit there and just all year and just have 17 play on the outside, and which he can. I mean he can, but he also can be creative and do some things on the inside as well.
Yeah, see, I'm in the same boat. Almost everyone that responded wanted to trade Waller. Apparently Waller is the worst player in Raiders history, and he drops
I
the
think
ball.
you'll get more. You might get more for Waller though than Renfro, so that could be a possibility too.
Or keep all 3 of them. Pay Jacobs, keep the other 2. Those were like the 2 responses. Now I'm in the boat with you. Like Renfro, this team's going to run the football, whether with all these guys on the team, whether they're here or not. So Renfro's not playing outside in 2 wide receiver sets. It's going to be Adams, and it's going to be whoever if it's Hollins or if they bring in another guy. Because if that was the case, Renfro would have been doing that when he was healthy the first couple of weeks, which he wasn't. I think with Waller, I know he's 30 years old and he's been hurt, but it's been a hamstring injury. Like, what do you want the guy to do? He can't get out there and run, then he's not going to play. Yep. So I think a lot of Raider fans are just thinking with their hearts because they love Renfro. But in this offense, if Renfro's on the field, you can't put Adams inside. And now you're taking away part of what Adams wants to do. With Waller, you can put Adams inside. You can have Waller line up in line as a tight end. You can split him out, have him play the X. He can win one-on-one matchups with pretty much anyone on the field. And you can do a lot more with him. And let's be honest, this team's window is not 5 or 6 years from now. The window, as bad as they are this year, is in the next 3 years. So I think you could probably get a 3rd round pick for Renfrow, maybe a 4th. Now they may just keep them all, but then I think what we kind of saw to Renfrow is what you're going to get. You're going to get weeks of 6 or 7 catches for 60 yards, and then you're going to have weeks where he gets 2 catches for 12 yards because he's just not going to be. This offense is going to be built around the tight end, the main receiver, which is Adams, and the running game. Renfrow is going to be an afterthought in this offense. As much as we want to sit here and think Edelman and Amendola and Welker and how they exploded in New England, none of those teams outside of when Randy Moss was in New England had an outside threat anywhere near what Davante Adams is. So this offense has to change and be based around him. And the interesting thing is, so after getting all of those, I went back and looked at the cap charges. Let's just say the Raiders bring Jacobs back next year. Yeah. 7 of the top 10 cap charges on this team are going to be on the offense. So there's 3 defenders in the top 10 on this team. It would be Crosby. Chandler Jones' contract is a brutal contract to look at, and Bilal Nichols at $6 million. Do you know where the next defensive player on the Raiders ranks next year in salary cap?
It'll be Perryman?
Well, he's not under contract, so he won't be on the team. But for next year, it would be Trayvon Merrick is 14th on the Raiders cap charges. He would be the 4th defender, making less money than the punter or the kicker. So you wonder why the Raiders don't have a good defense, because the 4th highest paid player on the defense makes less money than the kicker and the punter. So if we're going to put all this money into the offense, I think one of those guys has to go. And I would pay Jacobs as a game changer for the Raiders right now. Hunter Renfrow in this offense is going to be a hit or miss week in and week out. He's fumbled a lot. He has a concussion history. He's smaller, and I love him for what he is. But you don't need 3rd and Renfrow when you have Davante Adams.
You don't. You really don't. And I think. So where does that leave Moreau? Would Moreau be a guy who? Because Moreau is because I mean you would kind of with Waller being a speed player and being a guy who they probably need in that capacity. If he does get another lower extremity injury, you would need a solid backup tight end who can do what Moreau does. I mean, Moreau has been a solid pass catcher this year. He's also been a besides the drop in the Colts game. Boy, I tell you, that Colts game looms so large right now. My God, look at that. I mean, as bad as the Raiders have been, if they
or the Cardinals game, or the Chiefs game.
I know.
So we can do this all night.
We can do this all night. They had one more victory, I'd be a little bit more excited. But like I think you have to think about maybe what they're gonna do. I mean, you're gonna draft Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. Like, what are you gonna do? If
you're gonna pay the offense guys, you have to draft defenders. And my other argument is you can't sprinkle in 1 or 2 rookies, like a 1st and a 3rd round pick, and say, all right, the defense is good. We took care of it.
Yeah, we can't do.
If you really want to have a defense, you have to take away some of these play. It's the same situation they had in 2018, 2019 with the offensive line. Yeah. If you want to spend money on defense, it has to come from somewhere. Yeah. And right now, the Raiders here's their cap charges. Number 1, Derek Carr. Number 2, Max Crosby. Number 3, Chandler Jones. Number 4, Colton Miller. Davante Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Andre James. Like, they're all offensive players. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Rory, who went back and forth with me a little bit on Twitter today about how he doesn't like Colton Miller and he thinks the Raiders should absolutely get rid of Colton Miller, and he thinks Jermaine Illuminor is going to be just fine at left tackle because he held up in the Denver game. Right. We agreed to disagree on that, but Colton Miller is his $17.6 million cap hit's like 12th among left tackles. It's not like he's getting an absurd amount of money for that position.
That's a perfect spot for him. Yeah. I got a parallel thing for you real quick. I've been watching a lot of Dolphins, because they play earlier than the Raiders, so I watch the Dolphins. And I think if the Raiders were healthy, it would be a lot of Waller, a lot of Adams in the passing game, right? And you mentioned about how Renfrow is kind of lost in the sauce. Like, in Michael Gesicki is one of the really talented, not a full tight end, but a guy who catches a lot of passes. He's kind of that guy lost in the sauce right now because they can't. When you have Waddle and have Hill, who both are basically over 1,000 yards already, which is I think which is crazy. But he can't find, because he's a good. I mean, Renfro's a better player than Gesicki, but Gesicki's an effective player who can't find any catches in this offense in the Miami offense, because they have 2 outstanding weapons on the outside.
and he doesn't run block, so that Mike McDaniel won't put him on the field
Yeah,
a
he's
lot.
not. Yeah,
So
not running that scheme. You gotta be able to block a
no,
little bit, but yeah, but even the obvious passing downs. I mean,
yep.
plus Hill and Waller are better options anyway. So, I'm not with Raider Nation with like killing Waller. I kind of, he is shown to be a good person and a good player. I'm not gonna go on all off and start talking about him being like done or being like quitting on the team this year, whatever. I think the guy's hurt. I think he's hurt. So I mean, I'm not sure what it means when like some of these beat reporters are saying. I haven't heard Tom Pelissero say that the Raiders are frustrated with Waller. I haven't heard him say that. I've heard like the other guys say that.
What's funny is if it's fun to play revisionist history, but let's say the Raiders miss the field goal, Seattle kicks a field goal, wins the game, the Raiders lose. How many Foster Moreau sucks, Foster Moreau drop, Foster Moreau this tweets will we see? But because they won the game, everyone's back on we love Foster Moreau. Foster Moreau is just as good as Waller. Foster Moreau is not as good as Waller. We need to state that. He doesn't impact the defense and the coverages that Waller would. So would Foster Moreau come back to the Raiders? I think someone's going to pay him to be a starter. So I think he's going to go out on the market and get $6-8 million on a 2 or 3 year contract and be a reliable average tight end, which is what he is. He's not a game changer. And I think, the Raiders can go out and draft a guy that can easily replace his production, or go find a guy in free agency that can run block. And then I think Josh McDaniels would like an even better run blocker as his second tight end, Foster Moreau, because they don't really want to target. If you have Waller, you don't need to target him. The issue is going to be, can Waller stay healthy? But Waller gives you so much more versatility because you can go and play 12 personnel and just move him out wide. You can move him around all the formation. You can have a formation where you're going to power run with a 6 alignment and put Waller out wide with Adams and still run the football. And then the defense is going to have to basically double those 2 outside guys. So I just think there's so much more Waller can do. Now he has to get on the field. He has to stay healthy, obviously. And I think everyone's just overreacting to him missing camp, holding out, whatever it was that happened in training camp, and then he got paid and then he got hurt. If this was 2 years ago and Waller was coming off 1,000-yard season and he gets a hamstring, no one would be saying anything. But I think they're just overreacting to the moment and wanting this team to be better, and they just haven't. I just have a hard time seeing where Hunter Renfrow fits in this offense once they get the other pieces they want.
Yeah. I would say too, would Moreau even be an option if Adams is not on the field? Like, he's not going to be able to get open. Like, we've seen Waller be basically the number one option
by himself
in the offense and have a huge season, right? I mean, so keep that in perspective as well too, our Raider Nation, as far as that goes. Oops, got my notepad. But Raiders win, of course, in Seattle. And a kind of a thrilling, crazy game. One of the maddening, frustrating things that's happened this year too, as bad as they've been at moments. It's just they literally have, the schedule has not been. It's been there. Like, the Chargers won today on a 2-point conversion. That one, I totally agree. I totally agree with him going for that 2-point conversion and that situation, Staley, and they ended up winning the game against the Cardinals. But I thought that the Chargers has just been so. Like, everybody had them as world beaters. Everybody had them as like a team that's going to challenge for the division championship. They haven't been that. They're still well behind the Chiefs as far as that goes, and they're barely in the playoff picture as well. The schedule is not. I mean, at the beginning of the season, the Ram game looked tough, but now the Ram game is going to be. You're kind of be upset if the Raiders didn't win the Ram game now. So, what the Raiders did today is they brought a little bit of juice to Allegiant this weekend coming up. You're not getting the full juice, but they did bring a little bit of juice to this game against the Chargers coming up on next Sunday.
I think the Chargers have been snake bitten by injuries all year. They're missing several offensive linemen. Mike Williams, I'm not even sure Mike Williams played today. He's been out. Keenan Allen's missed most of the year. He just got back. Joey Bosa's been out. J.C. Jackson's been out. The Chargers are there for the picking. If the Raiders want to come out next week, they have the formula, pound the rock, because the Chargers don't stop the run, and then play action off of that. The Raiders have a great opportunity to win this game against the Chargers next week. I'm probably going to pick them to win next week based off how they played today. They're stopping the run really well. Teams are just not running the football on them.
They are.
I think, if they can just keep the explosive plays down, the key for them is going to be get off the field on fourth down, because Brandon Staley's going to roll the dice and he's going to do certain things. That Arizona team's not very good right now. I've been watching the in-season Hard Knocks. Cliff Kingsbury has the personality of a doorknob. It's tough. They're just not a good team right now. So they kind of struggled with them.
Yeah.
So, and I do think Matt Stafford, from all reports, it might miss the rest of the year. So if there's no Cooper Kupp and no Matt Stafford, there's no reason the Raiders should lose to Bryce Perkins or John Watford, whoever's playing quarterback.
Exactly.
So the Raiders are in a good spot. As much as we don't want to say the P word, they have every right to win the next two games. And I expect them to win the next two games based on how they're playing right now. And it's now, if they can get Diablo back, if they get Hobbs back, if Waller and Renfro are back next week, I think Waller and Renfro can be back for the Rams game, but they're starting to get healthy. They have to win against the Chargers this week. And then I think December opens up a lot of possibilities. I'm not going to go as far and say the P word until they're 7-7, but I think there's a realistic chance that they are going to play. I want to say the Patriots. So they're going to play the Patriots on the 17th. And I think there's or 18th. I think there's a good chance they're 6-7 going into that Patriots game.
That'd be a tough game to win, but the Patriots are good defensively, but yeah, I mean that's what I'm trying. That's why I was looking at the schedule. I was kind of peeking at it and saying, okay, they can get there, but this is the big swing game. If you're gonna get any juice out of the Raiders season this year, they have to beat the Chargers. They gotta be a Chargers. Have to be the Chargers. You can't lose the Chargers and say, oh, what was me? You gotta win that game. All right, Raiders.
What are the Chargers now? 6-5.
6-5. That's why that was a huge.
So if play. Let's just say they beat the Chargers, they get to 5-7. The Chargers are 6-6. They're a game behind them. They have to get ahead of the Chargers in the standings if we want to start talking the P game. It's a must-win game. The Raiders want to have any. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to sit here and say that I'd say there's a 10% chance they're going to make the playoffs. But if they win this game, I might start getting closer to saying the P word.
Yeah, I mean, you were on that run last year before it started. If they beat Cleveland, they can make a run. They can make a run as far as that goes. All right, Nation. Quick recap show. The Raiders win the walk-off. I mean, that was incredible. As soon as as soon as Josh Jacobs made that safety miss, I think the one play in the Jacobs game in the game too was that swing pass on the left side. Where he just stretched out as far as he possibly could to make a great catch, and then after that, of course, Jacobs made somebody miss and get more yards after that. I thought that was a great play as well too. So, Raiders win, and they improved their record to 4-7. So we'll see if they can continue that as well. Do you have anything else in parting, Mr. Holmes?
It hurts to say 4-7, but I guess it's better than 3-8. So.
And listen. I was reading some Bill Parcells stuff over the weekend, and one of his famous sayings: "You are what your record says you are." So that's it. Nothing else.
Hey, one game at a time.
One game at a time. All right, brother. Take care.
Take care.
All right, Nation. Peace.